Sparking Change for Harmonious Living is a TV show that inspires action. It motivates you to start a journey towards a more balanced, fulfilling life. This show explores well-being through spirituality, mental clarity, and physical health. It covers topics like mindfulness, nutrition, fitness, and spirituality, giving you practical advice to enhance your life. Tune in for a transformative adventure that ignites the change you seek.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sparking Change for Harmonious Living. I'm your host, Giovanna Tortorone.
And I'm your co-host, Ahmed Bahman.
Welcome, Ahmed. And today's show, we're going to be talking about the V in Thrive and its vitality. So what does really vitality mean? Because it is that energy. We have inner energy that fuels our life. Let's talk about that, Ahmed.
Well, vitality is basically represents the essence of being fully alive. And if we want to understand it a little bit further, we have to know what it comprises of and what it actually encompasses. One of them is that you have your physical energy, you have your emotional resilience, your mental clarity, your spiritual vibrancy, and it's basically a presence of something. It's a life force that helps
That's
you
in us.
that's in us, but it also helps you to overcome a lot of obstacles and most likely helps you to thrive if you know how to retain your vitality if you haven't been doing so. So,
And it's not
you know,
something that we're taught. So I will say this for the record. We are not taught that we have this inner life force that really helps us to thrive, right?
absolutely.
And not just survive, because I think a lot of people are in that survival
I
mode.
I went to a doctor one time because I wasn't feeling well, and I was a patient of eczema for quite many years, and at times I would have some joint pain. So I said I want to pay a visit to a holistic naturopathic doctor. I got tired of the regular doctors because all they did is just prescribe me more pills and to reduce the inflammation. So as soon as I went to this doctor, and his name was Dr. Popkin, and I think his clinic was in Sunrise, Florida. Took me around 2 hours to get there from Miami. And as soon as I went there, he said the first thing that I always do with all my patients is that I try to identify the cause of the problem. I'm not going to give you something that would treat the symptom. He said, I do my investigation. And he said, the first thing I do is under my machine, I will check your cells if they are surviving or if they are thriving. So at least that can give
Wow.
him that can actually give the doctor a very good indication about where my vitality is at that current moment. And then it wasn't very long that I realized that there were many factors in my life that was contributing for me to deplete myself of the vitality that I had. A little bit of awareness and the decision plus the self-discipline helped me to come back from a surviving state of being into a person who actually can thrive. I always feel vibrant. I feel more calm, more relaxed. But that's because I took the responsibility of altering my life. One time, Bob
Love
said
that story.
one thing very interesting. He said, if you want to change your life, we heard this many times. If you want to change your life, you have to change your life. Now, Bob said, he said, I know sounds like it's like a play on the words, but it's actually true. You gotta relive the whole thing over and over within you into realizing the changes that are necessary for the manifestation of that life that you want.
And it's so hard to visualize that, but it can be done if you become committed to yourself, right? To say,
Yes.
that's it, I'm done just trying to survive this life, I'm gonna, learn about me so I can stop surviving and start to thrive. It took to open up my eyes and my heart, a cancer journey to understand that that's it. I'm done surviving. I got a second chance at life. What am I supposed to do? And these are only questions that can only be answered within. Like no one has my answers, right? And that's the change. That is the change that I made a commitment to myself. You made a commitment to yourself. And once you make a commitment to yourself, then you're going down that path of understanding and becoming aware of what's causing you not to thrive,
Absolutely.
right?
And if you look at it from a holistic perspective, now the points that I mentioned, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual vitality, they're all
Hmm.
integrated together. One
Yes,
cannot give you the full capacity in a holistic way if you're ignoring one or a couple from this entire system. And you look at nature, right? There's vitality everywhere. There's vitality in the air, there's vitality in the ocean, there's vitality in the crops that grow from the earth. And there's energy everywhere. Now, there are things in life sometimes drains us from the vitality that we have, but there are other things that if we have the certain amount of awareness, we can revitalize ourselves and make sure that we're
absolutely.
back on track. Everybody can do it. There was a very famous doctor. His name was Dr. Norman Walker, and he created the Norwalk juicer. He actually lived up to 117 if
Wow.
you research him. Now, up when he was at the age of 110, there were many patients waiting to have a consultation with him with a waiting list of a year and a half.
I wonder
Now,
why.
the guy was vibrant. He was always filled with vitality, and he understood life. He said something very interesting, which contributed, to his longevity. And he's an author, I believe, of 6 books, and he strictly emphasizes on doing a colon cleanse once every 6 months. He cleans the system out so you can allow all the nutrients to be absorbed properly in your digestive tract. Because if it's clogged, if it's dirty, then all the nutrients are just going to pass through without you absorbing it properly. So that was one. 2, his machine was the Norwalk juicer. Opens up the fibers of the fruits and vegetables, and then puts it in
Hmm.
like a cheesecloth type of bag, and with a hydraulic compressor, which allows all the extracts to really seep out from the fibers.
Hmm.
Now, he said something which stuck with me for a very long time now, and I'll never forget what I read. He said, if you want to have more of life, you gotta have more of life. And what he was
I
focusing
love
on
that.
is that he focused on consuming more of living foods. Now, if you
Foods
cook
that come
something,
from the ground,
this comes,
vegetables,
yes,
right? Fruits and vegetables, yeah.
yes. Now,
Wow.
we usually cook our vegetables, right? Now, heat
Yeah.
destroys the vitality or the life force or the bio force that's available within the crop itself, right? Unfortunately, when it comes to poultry, that's due to bacteria and other things, we have to cook them because they're flesh based, they're animal based. It's a bit different based on the nutritional requirements.
Hmm.
But when it comes to plants, the more you can consume them in their original form, the better. Which I mean is as long as they're not heat treated, as long as they're
Yeah.
not cooked, because you're taking in more of life within yourself. Now, this is just, just discussing right now about the physical vitality, which relates to
Well, can I add to that? You know what I just recall? Dr. Jolie, who said, let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your
yes,
food.
yes,
Like there's a reason for that, right? If we're eating healthier, we will experience more vitality and more life force and energy. It
absolutely,
just makes so much sense.
absolutely.
Mm.
Prophet Muhammad always had a very solid statement. He said, "A healthy mind is always in a healthy body." Now, if I would have an ache, or if I would have a pain somewhere, or a little, or a
Mm.
long-term dis-ease, I don't like to call it sickness. It's just you're out of balance. So it's a dis-ease instead of having ease, right?
You're not at
Now,
ease, right?
not you're
Your
not at
body's not
ease.
at ease.
Yeah. So I have to address that first of all. And if I address that, then my mind can be free to focus on other things in my life. I can think more clear
Hmm.
as a start, right? And if I can think more clear, instead of having a cloud, instead of being cloud headed, I could focus better. I could have creativity, mental alertness, and sharpness, and it just helps you accelerate mentally in every
Hmm.
in every single way. Now, what comes after that? I will feel good. Pain's gone. I can think properly, and I
Yeah.
feel good. This will result for me to pursue a little bit more in my life in order to advance, to grow, and with that kind of vitality, you can prosper.
Well,
There,
let's
there,
talk of, I'm sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
sorry, there's nothing that can hold you back. You really can serve your purpose in a very, very holistic way that you just
You,
feel happy all around.
you just took the words out of my mouth. That you're serving your purpose, right? The energy that fuels your purpose. That is the name of the show, right?
Yes,
So when you're living that way, when you're living on purpose, more of that life force comes that you're using, right? To continue on that path. I love that.
absolutely.
I just love that.
And you're when you serve your purpose, you also start to cultivate your spiritual vitality. It comes into play, and it gives meaning, right? It establishes that connection. Not
Hmm.
many people can reach there at times because they're all preoccupied with a lot of, you know, bodily functions, or they're not at ease at times, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically, whether it's
Or
emotionally.
emotionally. Hmm.
So if you can address all of these, you can take care of your body, eat right, exercise. For your mind, you can read to learn something new every day. They always say,
Let's,
an empty mind is a devil's workshop.
yeah.
You cannot stop the mind from thinking. No matter what you do, you cannot stop it. Mental activity is there. Let's not
Hmm.
confuse the two. Mental activity, as Bob always said, does not constitute thinking. But
Right.
we can study where we can, you know, where we
Feed
can
it, feed it,
under
you know.
feed it and understand the
Hmm.
mechanisms of our thought patterns and how we can change our thought patterns in a way where it can serve us, where it will empower us instead of tuning into
Yeah.
the masses and seeing all the things that we don't like and we disempower ourselves. We can learn to avoid whatever is no longer serving us and just give our focus and attention to the thing that does.
Right. Because either way, the mind has to think. It's a job that it does. But what it thinks impacts our vitality, right? Impacts
Absolutely.
our energy. Like if I'm thinking all day that I'm not feeling well, there is no way I'm getting up out of bed and moving, right? So it's what we feed the mind that really creates our reality. and what we
Absolutely.
experience, right? So important.
And I remember, just to go back with regarding a story that Bob always used to say. He said, vitality basically has to do. It's like another way of saying I have energy, as an example.
Hmm.
And if you're in a position and you're not living your purpose, and it's like Groundhog Day, day in, day out, same loop cycle. If you're not excited, and you don't have the desire to do much, but Bob said of a story is that imagine there is this young man, and came back home, he's tired, but then he just realized there is a prom dance coming up, and suddenly he gets the desire to go there. He's feeling all excited. Where does all that energy come from? You see, physical thing, your physical structure, your cells also responds to your thoughts and your emotions. So vitality does not always necessarily come from food, but you can also get vitality from the thoughts that you grab from the ether. You know,
Absolutely.
there is radiation within the earth that can revitalize you. For example, people fast, and when you're fasting, you think sharper, mental clarity is there, and you feel spiritually lighter. How does this happen? You feel full of energy. I'm not comparing it to hunger. What
Right,
your stomach is telling you has nothing to do with the amount of energy you can get from fasting. These are two separate things.
right.
But you feel light. You feel that you're not sluggish anymore. There are certain foods that can basically rob you from the vitality that you have if you're eating junk food, for example.
Right.
So it's not always related to the food, but it's all about an understanding on what is it that I have to address today. Where am I lacking in my vitality? Is it my physical? Is it my mental? Is it my emotional? Is it my spiritual? If I'm not satisfying any area or part of these four areas, then I cannot be at my optimum best.
Right. Can't function at your best, of course. So, and when we're, again, if we're self-assessing um our emotional intelligence, and tapping into, like, how are we feeling today and why are we feeling that way? You know, most of the time we are looking on the outside and it's affecting our emotions. And, I challenge everyone to ask the questions. Does it really matter what the outside is doing or saying, that you allow it to affect your vitality? Because at the end of the day, we are in charge of us.
Yes,
We need to take ownership, and we have choices we can make. That's called free will. We all have free will. So it's really going inward, and protecting your vitality is extremely important, because that's what drives us to live a better life, right? To take the next step and the next step, and continue to work on our purpose and why we're here. Because a lot of people say, I don't even know why I'm here, right? They lose all that vitality, that life force. And that is because I believe, we're not working on ourselves. We're really looking at the outside. We're allowing the outside world to affect our inside world. Because this life force is an inner state of being. Vitality and having vitality is a state of mind, it's a state of being. So, we need to honor ourselves first. And I believe that's kind of like where there is a disconnect,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely, and as you said, when you spoke about emotional intelligence, and your emotions are your biggest indicators. Like if you when you ask yourself, just see, how do I feel when it comes to this area of my life? How do I feel physically? How do I feel mentally? How do I feel emotionally? And once you address them, you will also go through another form of shift where you will also start assessing your environment. That's another one.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because you want change, right? So you start practicing all the necessary techniques. Of course, once you learn them, either you practice gratitude, you journal, you meditate, you exercise, and you have a proper amount of sleep. Let's not forget that the timing of the sleep also is important for the
Sure.
circadian rhythm. And later on, you feel that now that you've undergone so many changes for yourself, you don't fit in certain areas anymore. And this is
Yeah.
where a change of environment is necessary. Now, what happens here is you're operating at a different frequency, you've changed your vibration. Now, two things are going to happen here, and it's one or both together. There are some people that you're going to walk away from because of it,
Right.
and there are some people that are going to walk away from you. Now, there's nothing wrong in that, like if how can I say it? You grab a bunch of oranges, right? There are, for example, 4 oranges. 3 of them have basically gone into the phase of rotting, and you're still that healthy orange. If you remain around that area, as they say, it's only about a matter of time before it affects you. Now, Bob said something, and he said, "I'm very careful with whom I surround myself with." He said, "Not that there is anything wrong with them." He said, "But I'm afraid of catching what they got." So, and there was another time, that they said, "Bob, we talk to you, but we never feel that you're a very old person." And he said something as a joke. He said, "Well, I don't hang around people my age. I always hang around with younger people." He said that as a joke, but then it struck him. He goes, "Wait a second, I do hang around with young people." So the whole thing is,
Yeah.
your
It's so true.
environment can contribute to your vitality. For example, why do people want coaches? Why would somebody who's depressed, somebody who's not healthy, somebody who has relationship
Yeah.
problems or job problems or money problems, they seek a coach? Why? Because we know how to revitalize them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've been there, right? It's like
We've been there.
we had to we had to be there in order to help someone be there. Like, and that's the other thing, is that you can't just be a coach and not go through, what you're trying to do to help others. But
Absolutely.
it comes down to what? Making a decision.
Yeah.
Making that first step.
If you want to grow through it, you got to go through it.
I love that. Say that again.
If you want to grow through it, you got to go through it.
Bob used to say, the terror barrier, right? Knock that terror
Yeah.
barrier down. Right? It's either fear or faith. You get to choose, but you can't be in both. You got to choose one.
As Brother Troy always said, he said, the funny thing about fear and faith is that both of them basically wants you to believe in something that you cannot see.
Right.
So either or, you'll end up with that result. As was a famous saying from Buddha. He said, if you think you can, and if you think you can't, you're right. So choose wisely.
I love it. Because Henry Ford has said the same thing, right? Henry Ford must have got it from him.
Yes.
But yes, choose wisely. We get to choose. And you know what? At the end of the day, choose what feels good. Choose what feels good. If it doesn't feel good, because feelings and emotions are, like you said, our indicators of whether we're in alignment with
Yes.
our greater self or we're not. And sometimes we disregard our feelings to make others happy. And that's not the way it should be. First, we should make ourselves happy, and then we can make the world happy, right?
Absolutely.
And others
And
happy.
don't never choose to be a little spark or a tiny candle when you're meant to radiate and shine across your entire world.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. And that's how we reclaim our vitality back, is staying connected with your true self, with your true feelings, and going after and finding what, your passion, working towards your passion, finding what your purpose is, because that energy is in you. We all have it. It's a gift we all receive from God, and I encourage everyone to tap into it because that's when life gets really good. So,
Absolutely.
with that being said, we're coming to an end. Thank you, Ahmed, for joining me today.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone, for joining us. Until next time, I'm your host, Giovanna Tartarone.
And I'm your co-host, Ahmed Ahmed. See you all next week.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me on Sparking Change for Harmonious Living. I hope that our episode today has ignited a spark within you to create positive change in your own life and in the world around you. To learn more about how you can become a guest or supporter, head over to sparkingchangenow.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review. Your feedback is incredibly valuable to me, and it helps me to continue producing content that sparks change in each of us and the world. You can find us on various platforms, including Google Play Store, Apple App Store, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Android TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Thank you again for watching, and I look forward to having you join me again next week on Sparking Change